Year after year again. I now request our Chairman, Setu Mahadevan, Mr. Sudhir Malhotra, Mr. S.K. Khai, our Director, without whom all these efforts wouldn't have been in place. We'll have the inaugural session for 15 minutes. We would like to finish it up as early as possible. Let's be pretty businesslike. Following the inaugural session, we'll have for a half an hour a small panel discussion on the contemporary perspectives on Indian publishing industry in the context of Wright Street. That our panelists will discover, which would be moderated by our chairman, Mr. Setu Mahadevan. I request Mr. Sikandar, our director, to welcome the audience formally.
Very good morning to all of you. For NBT it is very early. Respected Chairman Sir, Sri S.K. Gai and Mr. Sudhir Malhotra and Kartika, maybe Arpita I can find, and Mr. my dear friends Ramesh Mitra and other friends who are here. Indeed, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you on this first ever business to business session, which is a part of New Delhi World Book Fair. And this was conceived 3 months back, hurriedly, when we announced after making a lot of discussion and interaction with the publishers. We announced at the time of Frankfurt Book Fair. It is in a scheme of financial assistance where we could promote the opportunity to promote Indian books abroad. It is a need of our, we felt, so we, without wasting much of our time, we quickly launched it, and soon after launching we get a tremendous response, and with the government support, I believe this would be a very classic program of National Book Trust, which is maybe in the 1 decade we have done some reforms, and with the guidance of our new chairman, who is also an eminent author and who is writes one of the Indian language, that is Malayalam, and some of his books have been translated into other languages including English, and one of the book has been made as a movie. It's a successful movie, and which was award-winning movie in Bengali. This is I hope we will continue. We have already decided to continue this new Delhi Wright Festival the next year too. Next year we are starting the book fair from 15th of February, so it is a Saturday. So we decided to hold it on Monday and Tuesday, that is 17th and 18th. So I hope a lot of more people will be coming here, and 60 is also a very good number. When the first edition also we received a tremendous support and response, especially from foreign participants. I wish all this initiative will go on hand to hand with the publishing industry and ultimately benefit the industry as well as the authors. I now request Vinny to hold the other proceeding, please.
I now request Mr. S.K. Khai to say 2 words.
Good morning. I must congratulate National Book Trust and the new team which has taken over for organizing this Wright Stable program. India is a multilingual country, and we have lot of literature coming from the regional languages which needs to be translated and put it around the world. With this, we had a discussion, and I felt that it should be done. It is being done in other parts of the world, so why not to be in India? And I'm glad that finally it has happened, and I'm doubly happy because the director has said it will be done next year as well. So wish you all the best, and I hope the industry will take care of it, and this will benefit the industry as well. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Mr. Raj. You've been with us for some time, helping us in putting together the whole things. It was Hello. In fact, the CMD of ITPO, Ms. Rita Menon, was to formally inaugurate this session. For some unfortunate reason, she hasn't been able to make it. She's in the other program, okay. But then I'm told that business like time doesn't wait for anyone. We'll carry on with it. And I think we'll begin the panel discussion. I would now like to invite Kartika to come over. Yes. Before that.
Well, good morning everybody. I think it's a great moment for National Book Trust. As you know, this is one of our a few new initiatives we have taken up right this year. Yesterday, in the press conference, we announced about what all new things we are doing as a part of the World Book Fair. You know, for the first time, we are having a whole series of literary events as open sessions. There could be interaction between the readers and authors, and we are getting some authors from France and the rest of our country. Apart from that, this B2B session, the Rice Table, has been one of our dream projects we have been working on for quite some time. Because basically, I personally feel as a writer in an Indian language, it's a real treasure house. What we have in the Indian language, it's a real treasure house, yet to be explored, yet to be tapped. So basically, we thought, NBT has a duty to perform. We have to provide a forum, we have to facilitate for the translation and publication of regional books into foreign languages, for which we evolved a new scheme for financing from any Indian language to English, and from there to any foreign language. So this is a very ambitious scheme which has been launched on a pilot basis. So this Rice Table, normally which is the normal part of any schedule abroad, in any book fair, we are bringing it to the New Delhi Book Fair for the first time. I would say, we initially thought, why not we test the waters. But when we gauge the response we have received so far, although a little bit modest, I am sure that in the coming years it will be a huge success, because this is a real take-off stage for us. By and large, when we attended a couple of book fairs abroad, particularly in Sharjah and Istanbul, Turkey Book Fair, I think we had good response, although we didn't structure it the way we wanted. Now we are doing it in a very professional way. We are working on enlarging the scope of the Rice catalog, which will include a large number of Indian books also, right, in Indian languages. For that, the foreigners, foreign publishers, editors, literary agents, they will get a flavor of what's happening in India. So this is the first step towards that. So whatever deals are concluded across the table in the Rice Table, they will be eligible for our financial assistance in case they want it. The process will be smooth. So this will be a one-stop arrangement for us, and we feel that definitely it will take off in the years to come. I would count upon your support. I thank you for all participating in that. So as far as this panel discussion is concerned, I would rather, it would be my privilege to declare open this particular Rice Table. Quite an ambitious project of the National Book Trust. which is has been mandated by the government of India for taking Indian books abroad. It's a great task for us. Now, as far as the panel is concerned, the floor is all open to them. We are experts in this field. I thought, see, most of the publishers or literary agents or authors who are in abroad, who have been attending the fairs abroad, they are quite familiar about what's happening, and there's nothing new for them. But there are any number of Indian publishers and Indian stakeholders who may not be quite familiar about the modalities or how it's all done, the nuts and bolts things. So why not have a session, a brief session for half an hour, rather than we have details and all. So we thought, the experienced people, they could as well talk to you or discuss on this particular issue. So the floor is open. Thank you.
Before that, Arpita is here. Yet to come. You can invite Mr. Mittal to be here. We will be joining the panel discussion. So I will be out after this. Then these people will continue. Before parting, I would like to thank you. Special thanks goes to my colleague Farida Naik, who is all day and night work for this project, and Vinny and his team work appreciation, because in the background, like an international book fair, but the magnitude, the level we are handling, despite that they take out some time and able to organize this book fair. Special thanks to this team, and Vinny, then we can ask. After that only panel discussion. So now the floor is open. Now Mr. Mittal and everybody will be here. Please.
Good morning. Let me set the ball rolling by saying that for many of us in the Indian language publishing world, this has not been a focus area. We've not paid adequate attention to it. Some of us, the English language by and large publishers, have focused on it. But broadly speaking, if you look at Marathi, Oriya, Bangla, Dogri, none of these publishers have really taken this as a business function. As I see it, we are in the business, at the end of the day, business of generating value and creating value for three stakeholders. That is, first, the readers. Second, for whom we create value is our authors. And third is for our shareholders, who are the owners of the publishing house. And if we do not create value which can be counted or monetized in terms of money, the publishing house doesn't do well. And therefore, we come to two broad conclusions. One, that one way of making money or creating value is to sell more physical books. Other is to sell the innate or the inherent rights which are inbuilt into our content, our books. This is today becoming an extremely important and valuable source of income. In many publishing houses, it is anywhere from 10 to 20% of the annual income they generate is from sale of rights. That is the possibility, that is the potential. With these words, I'll let Karthika say something.
Friends, as Sudhir Malhotra has rightly said, that we have not been giving attention to this aspect of selling rights, and especially the Indian languages, from Indian languages to other languages. But there is a lot of scope in this. I can share with you that if we have published a book here in India and we want to sell its rights all over the world, we can't just go to the world and say that we have published this book and we want to sell this. I can share an experience which my father had. He published the book Unity in Diversity, which he wrote, compiled himself, and he wanted to sell the rights of that book. When he went to the Frankfurt Book Fair, they said, has it been translated in any Indian language? So when he said no, then they said, first try its value in India and then it can be. Then he came back and again the next year, in between that 1 year, he sold the rights in Indian languages, rather also published we also published ourselves in Hindi. Then it was done in Punjabi by another publisher, in Tamil, Telugu and in other languages. By the time he went next year, there were about 8 translations already published in the Indian languages. And when he went, we were able to sell in the Frankfurt also for the German rights, the Japanese rights, the US rights. So that is the importance of first selling in India and then testing the market outside. So if the book becomes a bestseller, it automatically sells, the other people wants it. But otherwise, even if the book is not a bestseller, even then you can sell the rights if you know the right type of the publisher. Yes, Vidal Sahab, you would like.
Good morning, everybody. Well, as Mr. Ghai has already pointed out, I remember, say, 6 years back, we were together in Paris Book Fair when India was the focus country there. And Baby Haldar, one of the authors from here, she was already translated in 10 languages in India, and then she was invited by the Paris Book Fair authorities to be there for the French edition to be launched and also to sign copies of the French edition by herself. So this is how the market gets developed. That's what I have learned about, for a publisher and also for an author perhaps. The right kind of approach always is that the books find an international rights position, and that is possible only by way of first being able to sell the rights within the country in different languages, and then perhaps proceed for the Western languages. Thank you so much.
I'm just listening to you and saying that I think there's a certain history to be reached now, and that history I think is not just about selling rights to a particular book, but perhaps we've changed the entire way we look at books, and the culture of book selling in India seems to be changing quite quickly. So when we go abroad, earlier it was always about trying to explain what we were, who we were, what kinds of books we did. That recognition of the fact that India is a multilingual market, that there's books being published in many, many languages, all of that is almost like a nascent knowledge that has gone to the world of books outside. So we are in a position where we now don't need to explain the basics, but I think there's very little understanding of the range of titles we publish and the range of ideas there are. So in a sense, I think that the effort has to be not necessarily to sell books to a particular, rights to a particular title, but to build a network, which I think is what a few of our publishers have been very good at, a few rights people have done very well. For instance, you mentioned Baby Haldar. I think Urvashi is one of the most fantastic people where that network is concerned. She knows publishers in different languages. She's worked relentlessly over the years to give them a voice and to build partnerships where you may not sell rights to anyone, but you do keep in touch and you keep talking about the books that you do, and someday there will be the right book for that publisher. I think that bridge is what we have to build across the world, and that is why I think this is such a wonderful thing that you've done to set up this rights table, because we've never had them coming to us. We've always gone out to them, and it's like you're begging sometimes. You say, please do my book. I need the money from you because we don't get money from within, But now we're saying, we have a market, we have the books, we own this property, come and find it. And that is really very interesting. The other aspect of this is, I think that English language publishers, as you said, have been doing this perhaps a lot longer. We have had it as a revenue center in our publishing houses. I know that HarperCollins, my colleague Nilini, who's here, has been growing that revenue systematically. So it's something that we look at very seriously, and we try to do small things like a newsletter, for instance, which it does every month, which goes out to everyone, Indian language publishers, international publishers. It's possibly a small tool because it's just like, 10 titles maybe or 12 titles to which you have rights. But if you keep at it, something will catch the eye of that publisher somewhere. And it may be someone in Turkey, or it may be somebody in publishing in Telugu. It could be anywhere. But unless you keep going at it, unless you go month after month and start building that trust, I don't think we can achieve anything. And that network, okay. But what I'm trying to say is that the network is of the publisher, it's of the rights person, and it's of the list of books you do. As much as it is of India and the world, or English with Hindi, or Malayalam with Telugu, because that's the other thing that we are beginning to do a lot more of. Any one of our books can go into like 5 languages around the country first, and it will never go international. I think there's increasingly content that is very specific to India. A lot of our non-fiction books are India-centric. Our readers are here, our rights buyers are here. So why do we have to focus entirely on can we sell it to the US or the UK? If you put that revenue together of what you can earn from 10 books, like we published APJ Abdul Kalam's Turning Points. And I know we've earned more revenue from that, not just in terms of selling to readers, but just licensing to language publishers in India. So there is a whole new interest, there's a whole new market, and I think this is like a great way to start saying, let's systematize this and get people on the same forum, and then we can really take it forward. So I'm really excited about this venture.
Here, one problem we have been facing, when we try to create a kind of database. Okay, suppose when I was telling you about the rights catalog, okay, we should have a much bigger rights catalog. Here I need the cooperation of the publishers in Indian language. We have skeleton data, whatever NBT has published or whosoever has volunteered to give their information when we go abroad. We need a much bigger database of what's happening, or perhaps the kind of titles in the Indian languages which could create appetite abroad, there could be takers abroad. You know better, the publishers in Indian language know better, perhaps what could be accepted abroad. So if you could pass on this information to us in the basic details, we will include it in our sort of database, and perhaps that will be eligible for our financial assistance. So when we go abroad, see, we participate in a few major book fairs abroad, we can carry it up. You may not be going, but we can carry it abroad. As a government agency, that adds some kind of credibility to the whole operation. So I would request your cooperation, particularly the publishers in Indian languages. We don't have access to that information.
So what if you had a website where publishers could come on from anywhere they are and actually just post their material? So we could put our newsletter up, we could put up whatever business we've done in rights. So it's like a publisher's marketplace, which is an international website already.
Yes.
We could do an Indian version.
We'll do that. I think Farida, we will work on that. I think kind of. They could post this on our website.
So directly we can post it. And
Yeah,
you can put the limited. This is the
Sure.
limited.
And like Publishers Marketplace, you would take a fee from all of us. So we pay to be, part of that. I know you are government, you have lots of money, but what I'm saying is...
I would say not really. But again here, I thought of the process we started this year. We have advisory committees for each language, about every language. So it consists of experts, say professors, teachers, authors, publishers and all. We thought of taking their help. Okay, please suggest some titles, 10 titles per language. But as you know, we authors, we writers, we are a little bit lazy. We just don't spend time on that. So our response was not that encouraging. So we thought, why not approach the publishers who have a feel of what's happening in the language.
If I may just say one more thing, I think the other thing that we could easily do is if you actually do build a website and so on, is that we could start loading on books. We also publish in Hindi, for instance. We could start putting on like a sample chapter from a book we publish, and other publishers would do it. Then anywhere in the world, you know that here is the central repository. You come in, you browse, you find something that interests you, and that would definitely lead to more business for everyone.
I think there are certain publishers, you scan and put the first 3 pages, or so you get a feel of, apart from the blurb, blurb may not serve any purpose, and it's all doctored information. Much more than that, first 3-4 pages, whatever. There are 3 publishers to do. I think we can work on that. We need your cooperation.
The publishers, once we have put the information at our link to our website, the publisher can go directly to our website and read whatever they want to read.
I'd like to go back to what Kartika spoke about, and that was building partnerships and creating a level of trust with your working partners. In addition to that, which is very important, I think we need to make a distinction between fiction and non-fiction works. Fiction, of course, is totally creative, but in non-fiction, what is happening is, much less now, but Indian content was always never considered really trustworthy. It was suspected that it is not really authoritative, and therefore, sound editorial inputs are an extremely critical element in being able to sell rights, especially in the international markets. And therefore, the business of selling rights or looking at the potential of a book, especially in the non-fiction, starts the day you start planning a book or evaluating a manuscript. Those peer reviews, cross-verifying the content, how authoritative it is, how accurate it is, that is an extremely critical factor. And there comes in the role of the publishing organization that do not take shortcuts, do not have a patchwork approach, but have a deeply authoritative, well-researched work in the non-fiction area, even if it is for popular reading. You don't want to sell information which is either plagiarized or pirated or is in any way going to endanger someone down the line. That's an extremely important issue. The second point I want to make is that rights today is not merely translation rights. There are multiple rights which we can sell. We can talk of translation rights within India or translation rights into other international languages. But then there are territorial rights for an English book you can sell. An English book published here, you could say, I license it to a South African publisher for South African market, or a New Zealand publisher for a New Zealand Australian market. So that's the other aspect. And the market which is emerging or is going to emerge in the rights is in the e-book space, the digital space, and serialization spaces in the newspapers and the magazines. That is something that we need to be aware of. 10 years ago, no one recognized e-book rights as a separate category of rights. Today, most of us do acknowledge that's a separate category of rights. And these new emerging rights, which may not be existing today, but will come into position tomorrow or day after, that is another aspect that we need to keep in sight always. Especially when we are working today. That book that we may be working on today may have a life for next 10 years. So let's keep those rights in our sight.
I think also that it's very important to know how to pitch a book. If we're trying to sell a book, unless you can say the right things to the right person who's looking for that material, I think we fail. We need to create very systematically all the specifications that the editor might be interested in. A synopsis that is powerful, that says the right things about the book with sample writing. Unless you have the pitch ready, and unless you can identify the person who is appropriate for that book, there may be 5 wonderful publishers in a particular language, but maybe some do some kinds of books better than the others do. And I think it's silly to go to the biggest and say, you're the best, and so, we'll just go with you. I think we need to look at who will do the best job with a particular kind of book. And that requires research. And
that's another thing that I think is integral to right selling and buying. That unless you put in the amount of work required to find out who can do what, then it's just blind selling, and that's not very effective. The other area where we're having more increasing right sales and interest at least is book to film to cinema. Because I think maybe Bollywood is getting a bit desperate for interesting subjects, I don't know. But we now have agents who work in that field and who come to us saying, what books do you have? We would like to pitch to producers and directors. And so we're also working with a sub-agent in Bombay who is trying to see if he can match book to product. So several of our bigger books have been optioned by film producers, some in Bollywood, some in Hollywood. And let's see, if they work out, then that's a lot more money than you might get for selling book rights.
Let me make an interesting aside to this or an anecdote. This is not something new. If we look at in the 70s and the 1980s, some of the major Hindi movies were based on books, including such blockbusters as Kati Patang and Jeel Ke Us Paar. You know, they were blockbuster books, blockbuster movies, which I think in the next 2 decades we sort of lost sight of as publishers, or the movie producers got little tired of it or exhausted and went in a maybe Amitabh Bachchan happened, the angry young man happened. But she's absolutely right, there's a lot of money to be made in that. And I think it's only fair to put in a remark like saying that be fair to your authors. That is the other critical thing. Because many authors are holding back rights because they do not trust their publishers, or they feel their publishers are not 100% transparent. So that's an extremely valuable thing that we need to keep in mind. That be transparent, be honest, be upfront, and come to an understanding and then adhere to it. That is an experience.
As an author, has been like for 4.5 decades, it has been a love-hate relationship all these years. I don't know what is the percentage of a love or hate, it keeps on changing.
Well, as Kritika pointed out, books are turning into films, and there are agencies doing it. And our country is lacking literary agents here. And perhaps once we start having much more business in terms of rights, there will be more and more literary agents coming in, advising the publisher what to publish, and then perhaps finding market for translations and all that. So that's the way we can perhaps develop our business much more faster.
I think we have just 5 more minutes. If there are any questions, kindly do come up. Yeah. Questions or comments, suggestions?
My name is Ashok. I am come from Telugu publisher Alkananda. We are facing problem of translating from Telugu to English, or vice versa. Vice versa is not a much problem. English to Telugu is alright. But from the regional language to English or other language, we are facing problem. Can NBT do something about, taking some kind of
Actually, I get your point. We have a scheme, we are working on it. See, right now, it's meant for the overseas market. Apart from the Adan Pradhan, where we have that kind of interplay among the Indian languages, it's already there. But as you know, whether if it comes to the question of selling to a private publisher, whether NBT could step in a marginal way or not. We had applied our mind, we are working on some scheme, just to get the formal sort of thing approved, and some money will be involved. So we have an ambitious scheme. Why not dovetail these two things, but what's happening in the languages. This Adan Pradhan right now is through NBT route, from our existing route. But as you know, NBT delivery channels are not as far for many reasons.
I think he was not really referring to the financial side, but identifying competent, skilled translators Translators. So if we could have a panel of translators.
I can only suggest. We do have a database of our own approved translators, language to language. We do have a thing. There's nothing wrong in parting with the information because more books will be created. There's no problem about that. And we are trying to enlarge that list also because we need younger people. See, some of them are pretty old. They take up the project and they don't do it. But it's a fact. It's a fact. And because once you have a deadline, you cannot, sometimes they take a couple of years to complete the project. We just can't do that. So we are trying to update this language, inter-language panel translation.
I just want to say that when you do these wonderful courses I went through an editorial course that NBT did many years ago, obviously, but they continue to do that. And I wish you could expand that with some funding or whatever to get workshops for translators, for children's writers, illustrators. There's so much we can do with that.
As far as publishing course is concerned, we do conduct at different centers. We have also signed MOU with 3 universities to do postgraduate diploma and all that. Ambedkar University, Calcutta University, Aligarh University, and more are in the offing. But apart from all those things, this is a good suggestion. Conducting workshops for translators, perhaps at different centers and all that. It's a good suggestion. We will work on it, possibly with some functional experts and all. There are senior translators from different languages. We'll certainly work on it. It's worth it. Yes.
I think one part we've left out in the entire thing is the copyright issue and the copyright law aspect of it. I think all of us need to be, at least be aware of the fact that there are copyright or legal implications in translation of rights, in sale of rights, in translation, especially when we are talking with our international partners. Copyright law tends to differ from one place to another, one country to another, and you do not want to be on the wrong side of it. That is other aspect that must be kept in mind.
Frankly, we authors, we are not aware of the many, I would say, fine print, whatever is there. Basically, when one of my books was translated in English language and all, I didn't know what exactly is there. There's something like territory rights, country rights, and that kind of thing. No, because the authors will have to be, they should be well informed, they should be educated. Obviously, the publishers have their own channels. Perhaps you can think of conducting some workshops. No, in fact, one publisher based in London approached me. He said, he is prepared to lend his services for that. No, only thing is that this has to be structured in a little more comfortable way. And that's what we got okay. Any more suggestions, questions?
Sorry, there's just a small.
Thank you very much. My name is Cik Mazlan from Malaysia. I'd just like to share my thoughts regarding academic books. From my perspective, from my country, we find that the Indian academic books are getting widely accepted. Right? But I do agree with one of the panels regarding the editorial quality of the books. Okay, so happened I'm in the panel of the academic books award in Malaysia. I find there's a weakness there in terms of the academic books from India. Quality, content-wise, it's very good. The content-wise is very good, but in terms of the editorial quality of it, which I think is quite lacking. I think the strength of Indian academic books in terms of the pricing, in terms of the content is there, but not in the editorial aspect of it. So if you can improve on that, I think it's a very huge market, not only in Malaysia, but the whole world. Thank you.
What you're saying is absolutely correct. I think editorial function has not been paid as much attention. We need to strengthen it, we need to improve it, and we need to constantly be observation.
There is a huge market for Indian kind of educational books in the Middle East. This is the kind of feedback we have. It's huge market because most of them are Indian schools, they have Indian syllabus and all that. Because they have to be tapped in a big way.
This market, I think, is already being taken care of by the Indian publishers and Indian distributors settled in UAE, and there are 3-4 very major active players in this market.
Shall we call it a day?
Before that, let me introduce some of our panelists here. We have Mr. Ramesh Mittal, President Quebecsum. Mr. Guy of Sterling Publishers runs an Institute of Book Publishing course. Mr. Sethu Madhavan, Sahityaka Academy Award winner, and one of his most famous novels, Pandopuram, which has been translated into so many languages and into 2 language films, both in Malayalam as well as in Bangla. We have Jeff, it has to go a lot more way with the rights table now opening up. A lot more of our books would find place in the broad many languages. We have Mr. Sudhir Malhotra, our own friend, now currently President of Federation of Indian Publishers, who was striving in his own way to take the publishing industry of this country to a good level. And Kartika, a very old friend of us. She's known, and she's a chief editor and publisher of HarperCollins, and Penguin HarperCollins, and nothing more.
Before that, I just mentioned because we already got a person who is well versed in copyright. Unfortunately, he is appearing in an examination, Viva, in the university. Our friend is the director of G. R. Raghavendra. We will bring him most probably maybe tomorrow sometime, and he is the one person, an authority in India, who is handling the copyright, also the registrar of Indian Copyright Act. So we will bring him in sometime. We will have a small session, and your doubts we get cleared through that. And since I thank all the panelists, because it's an our moderate level we have started it, and hopefully next year it will be more and more people will join. Much organized way we could do. I sincerely thank all the participants and the moderator of the session, and would like to request all of them to join in tea. After that, the usual business will start, and the command will be with Farida and the Binny Korean. We will all believe that if required we will be back. Thank you very much.
Just a small announcement. The sessions will begin at 11:30. I'm sorry, you'll have to, and considering your time, so you'll have to hurry up in your tea session, please.
Only was remembering and saying you're doing great done. I think how you